Welcome to the session on factors in R programming. Let's look at what a factor is. But before that, let's look at what exactly is a categorical variable. You must have heard of certain variables in statistics called categorical, ordinal, or interval. These are the different types of variables available. A categorical variable is one that has, well, I would say two or more categories. Okay. I would just redefine it as saying variable that has two or more categories, but there is no intrinsic ordering to the categories. For example, a gender is the most famous categorical variable taken as usually as an example. You have a male, you have a female, right? You have, let's say you belong to a party, a Democratic Party, Republican Party. Let's say you have blood group. Okay, you have one of these A, B, or AB, or O, and so on. But there is no intrinsic order to this. What is an ordinal variable? It is also something like a categorical variable, but there is intrinsic ordering to this type of variable. Okay, so let's say you have economic status, right? There is a low, there is a medium, there is a high, and there is an ordering to this. Okay, there is an ordering to this: slow, fast, and faster. You have your grades in college. You are a 3 or a 4 or a 4, and so on. So these are the examples of ordinal variables where you have intrinsic ordering. And then you have something called interval variable. Interval variables are defined by specific ranges. So $10 to $15, $15 to $20, $20 to $25. So these are all interval variables where the interval of $5 is carried on. So I hope you are clear on what is a categorical variable, which is actually used as part of the definition for our factors in R programming. So now, what is a factor? A factor is a statistical data type that is used or that stores categorical variables. Okay, so a good example again I would take up as a gender. Male and female are, in a simplified sense, the two values of the categorical variable called gender. Now, what is the use of factor? Well, one of the most important uses of factors is in statistical modeling. Since categorical variables enter into statistical models, and these are quite powerful. The factors in R programming, how are they stored? The factors are stored as vector of integer values with a set of character values. Okay, so the factor function is used to create a particular factor. So you make use of the function called factor. The first thing to do is to create a vector that contains all the observations. So let's say you have a vector, okay, and then you create it using certain number of observations that belong to a certain number of characters. So let's use our R GUI here. This is not the R Studio. We are continuing with the basic R here. So I would say gender, and creating. So I've created this gender. If you type in here, you would get these values in double quotes. Okay, so it is clear from this that there are two categories, or in R terms they're called as factor levels, and those factor levels are male and female. So if I copy this here, there are two types of categories, or we can just say two categories for now, just to be non-redundant. Two categories, also called as factor values, and these factor values are just, in plain terms, it's male and female. So I'm creating a factor out of the vector of the gender, which contains these 5 observations with two different factor levels called male and female. So I would purely say here, do a factor of gender. Okay, Now if you type in here factor underscore gender, you will observe that it will give you the result as male, male, female, male in the same order, and it will tell you that there are two levels. One is the female and the other is the male. It has arranged in the alphabetical order. Let's take another example and create a vector of blood types for 7 people. Okay, so now we have the blood vector which contains all these observations A, B, A, B. These are called as observations. And how many types of observations are there? There are 4: A, B, AB and O. These types of observations are also called as factor levels. So if I type in blood here, it would give me in double quotes what exactly is there inside. Now in fact, you would be surprised to know that factors are actually integer values, and each integer corresponds to a category. If we look at the kind of string that we are actually using here, factor this vector called blood by running a factor function on blood. And if you type in factor underscore blood, you will get these values without the double quotes, and there are 4 levels as we discussed earlier. So R sorts the levels alphabetically. So if you look at the structure of this scenario of this factor, and then type in structure of factor blood, you can see that there are factors with 4 levels: A, AB, B and O more clearly, and then it automatically assigns the integer values of 1, 2, 3 and 4 for these. So 1 is A, 2 is AB, 3 is B and 4 is O. So when we look at these observations right there, you can see that A is 1, B is 3. Here in this case it is the B is given a value of 3, and you have in your observations B in the second place, so it is giving you the integer value of 3. AB here is assigned the integer value of 2, so here you will get a 2 there. So 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 1 and 4. That's the order in which it is given. So maintaining such structures in the traditional way takes up a lot of memory, and this factoring saves a lot of memory for you. So that's a very important thing to remember. Now this is a default way in which the factor has ordered its levels, and it's alphabetically. But you can also order the levels in a different format. Let's say you want to do it factor underscore blood 2, and instead of this order of A, A, B, B and O, you want to give it O, A, B and AB. So in this case you would say factor of this vector of blood, change the levels to close with 2 brackets, and if you type this factor underscore blood 2, you would get your required or your defined levels as O, B, A and AB. Now the structure of this factor underscore blood 2 would give you the factor with 4 levels, and then it will order it accordingly. So the first one is 3, which is actually an A, and your observations, it begins with an A here. Now that you have seen how to change the ordering of factor levels, let us see how to rename the factor levels also. Let me just type in blood here. Of course you have your observations as a vector in the form of the name blood, and you have your factor underscore blood, which is already a factor there. Now if you want to do a levels of factor, let me just type in here factor underscore blood. Okay, so you have these initial levels there. Now if you want to change the names, you would say factor underscore blood and create a vector. If you type in factor underscore blood, you would be seeing the new names of your factor levels. Okay, so in this way you can actually directly change the names also. Now how do you order or give an ordering format to these factors in our programming? Let's say you have you went to a Starbucks cafe and you ordered for a coffee. You ordered for 7 cups, and these have come in these sizes: large, medium, small, medium, large, and large. Right now, this is the size of the coffee cups that you got, and now you want to factor underscore size, which would give you the factor of the size, and you want to put it in an ordered format. So you would say ordered equal to true, and the levels are, so the smallest one would be S followed by medium. So you're saying basically that small is less than S is less than M, and in turn that is less than L. Okay, if you say factor underscore size, you would get in this format. So it automatically understands that there is an order to your levels from small to medium to large, where L is the largest size. You can do a boolean and then try to find out whether this is true or not. So you would say factor size for this element. Let's say the first element is 1, which is large, is greater than, you're trying to get a true or false statement to this, a factor underscore size, and then the second element, which is a medium. Whether this is true or not, press enter and you will find out yes, it is true. So L is greater than M as per the ordering of the factor levels that you have done in this particular script there. Excellent. So let's summarize factors. It begins with a categorical variable. It's a statistical data type that stores categorical variables, and categorical variable has 2 or more categories where there is no intrinsic ordering to those categories or observations. Examples: when you have an ordinal variable where there is intrinsic ordering, like this. You have interval variable where there is a range that is defined as an interval, and factors are actually integer values, and each integer corresponds to a particular category. So let us continue with a new chapter in the next session called lists. Until then, take care and not forget to subscribe and like my video. Thank you.